Hey YouTubers, this is the Gold Standard User 924 coming at you with my Money in the Bank 2016 review. Overall, I gotta say I really enjoyed this show. I thought this show was very fantastic. A lot of the key important matches delivered. You had the main event with the World Heavyweight title belt on the line, so Roman Reigns defended the belt against Seth Rollins. You also had John Cena and AJ Styles. The Money in the Bank ladder match itself. Yeah, so there are some key important matches that were featured on this card. But before I get into detail regarding those matches, I also want to kind of run down pretty much the whole undercard leading into those key important matches that I mentioned. Uh, we had the kickoff show, which consists of two tag team matches. Not really much to write home about since, like I mentioned, probably about the previous video that I don't necessarily watch the kickoff shows. I mean, considering the fact that they're recaps and basically a bunch of matches that don't really mean as much. So you had Goldust and R-Truth teaming up against Tyler Breeze and Fandango. Goldust and R-Truth went over, and another tag match between the Dudleys and the Lucha Dragons, where the Lucha Dragons ended up going over the Dudleys. So then we get to the actual main card on the show, and the match that opened up was a Four Corners match for the tag team title belts. So the New Day's going in as the champions. They're taking on the Vaudevillains, Enzo and Cass, and the Bullet Club. Yeah, so basically the match opened up with, a promo with Enzo and Cass, and even New Day came out there and cut their own promos as well before um, the next two heel tag teams came out. So yeah, basically the match I thought was actually a really good way to open up. Just a lot of brawling between the eight competitors, and a pretty cool spot where Cass lifted Enzo More and he threw him over to the competitors that were at ringside, which was actually pretty cool. Biggie also did some pretty cool spots, like the big splash on the apron and the running spear to the ringside, and similar to Edge at WrestleMania 22. Um, there was actually a little bit of a botch, like when Kofi Kingston was the legal man. Like I think he tried to go for a Trouble in Paradise on one of the Vaudevillain members, but there was just some awkward moments where he just kind of slipped. Um, but everything else was actually pretty solid for the most part. And New Day ended up retaining the tag team title belts in this match. Yeah, like I said, just a really fun match. I guess the only complaint I probably would have was the fact that I think the Bullet Club could have won the tag title belts. I mean, they've been coming in to WWE for a few months and trying to make a statement, and the way they've been booked for the past several months, it's just been kind of left more to be desired. I mean, they were just basically in a feud with Roman Reigns and the Usos, and even though Bullet Club went over the Usos, I mean, even they weren't able to help AJ Styles win the World Heavyweight title. So I think from here they could have, like, especially now that they got AJ Styles to come on good terms once again, they this could have been a great opportunity to really kind of reboot their momentum and use this opportunity to potentially win the tag belts. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I really felt that they should have been the candidate to take the belts off the New Day. So I was actually pretty disappointed that they didn't win the belts. But yeah, even nevertheless, this was actually a really fun way to open up the pay per view. Then we have the second match consisting of Dolph Ziggler taking on Baron Corbin. This is basically a rematch from the previous pay per views. So this match, I just wasn't really a fan of. I mean, it kind of dragged on. I mean, Baron Corbin pretty much got all the offense, and Dolph Ziggler got a little bit here and there. Ziggler tried to go for multiple attempts at a Fame-Master, but somehow Baron Corbin ends up countering it in some way, shape, or form. Dolph Ziggler, when he finally nailed that Fame-Master, even Baron Corbin able to kick out of it. So, yeah, so basically the match was going, a pretty slow, methodical pace, and, the crowd was chanting boring, boring, and, even Dolph Ziggler surprisingly got some mixed crowd reactions, and, it's just kind of really sad for Dolph Ziggler. I mean, once upon a time, people were really rallying behind him, and, now that he's just been kind of sort of an afterthought, and, basically kind of used to, enhance some of the new talent that's been coming in from NXT. So yeah, so Baron Corbin ended up going over Dolph Ziggler by the end of days finishing move that he does, and gets the 3 count. So Baron Corbin ended up going over. Yeah, so this match I wasn't really too big of a fan of. I thought it kind of dragged, and it was just very slow and methodical. So yeah, just not one of my favorite matches on the card. Then we have is the tag team match with the women's champion Charlotte and teaming up with Dana Brooke to take on Natalya and Becky Lynch. Yeah, so this match was actually surprisingly was actually pretty short. I was expecting normally, especially in recent years, how we've been going through this Divas Revolution, and and eventually bring back the women's title belt. So we were expecting like a lot of reasonably long, lengthy matches, but this match didn't really go on as long as I thought it did. Um, but yeah, so basically there is a bit of a story going on, with Charlotte and Natalya having their little rivalry that's been going on for a couple months, and Charlotte always getting the upper hand. Especially relying on dusty finishes, and you also had Dana Brooke, interfered in the Charlotte Natalya match from Extreme Rules and costing Natalya the match. Becky Lynch had been feuding with Dana around this time, and Dana Brooke always got the upper hand on Becky. So eventually Becky kind of got involved in this feud and basically setting up this tag team match. So yeah, the pacing was going pretty good, and the match ended where I believe, yeah, Charlotte was the legal person, and she shoved, I want to say, Becky Lynch to Natalya, and because Natalya was also the legal person, so Charlotte ended up nailing Natalya with the natural selection to get the 3 count for her and Dana Brooke to get the victory. And eventually, Natalya post match attacks Becky Lynch from behind, and pretty much signifying a heel turn. So I'm not really sure what to think exactly. Crowd was actually really shocked and even booed Natalya. So they're likely going to do a Becky Natalya feud. I don't know at Battleground, since it's only like we're a long road ahead of Battleground, so it's not like Money in Bank or Extreme Rules where they're just so close to each other. So they're probably going to do like a match at a Battleground or maybe on like Raw or SmackDown, but um, it kind of came all so sudden. So Natalya like pretty much took her frustrations on Becky for the reasons why they came up short. So as for Charlotte, I think they're gonna have her feud with Sasha Banks eventually. There's speculation that they're gonna have a match at SummerSlam because that's why they've been keeping Sasha Banks off television. I mean, she's not like legit injured or anything. It's that WWE just doesn't have anything planned for her since WrestleMania. So, um, I don't know. I mean, maybe Charlotte might be. Maybe they'll make it a triple threat match. Like maybe Charlotte, Natalya, Becky, or I don't know about Fatal 4 Way since Dana Brooke is actually in cahoots with Charlotte. So um, I don't know what they're gonna do. They're probably gonna do Becky versus Natalya, or maybe like a triple threat of sorts for the women's title. So we'll have to wait and see for Monday Night Raw. But this match was, kind of what it was. Nothing really too spectacular, but nothing too much of a dud, so to speak. Then we have is Sheamus taking on Apollo Crews. So there wasn't really much build up, just the fact that they had this sort of confrontation on Raw, and Sheamus is on that the second Ninja Turtles movie, and basically kind of sets up a match between him and Apollo Crews. I was actually surprised seeing Apollo Crews do the Olympic Slam that Kurt Angle usually does. Didn't really generate any heat or any sort of reaction when he did it. I think it was actually the teardrop suplex that Shawn Michaels used to do, but it almost looked like an angle slam, which, I mean, both moves are very similar. The match still went on, and Sheamus actually did a pretty cool spot where he did the white noise off the top turnbuckle, and I was actually shocked at first because I thought that Apollo Crews might have potentially break his neck because when you do the white noise, your opponent like lands hard on the canvas, like right on the neck or near the neck. But yeah, Sheamus even went out of his way to do it on the top rope, which he successfully connected. But even despite that, Apollo Crews just kicks out of it, and surprisingly enough, even defeated Sheamus by a roll up to win the match overall. So yeah, they're real. Apollo Crews is really building up some momentum since he got called up to the main roster. So I think WWE's pretty high on this guy. And Sheamus, it's kind of like Dolph Ziggler. I mean, both these guys were on top at one point, and now they're just complete afterthoughts. So it's um, yeah, Sheamus has definitely gotten buried. Even in recent years, and well, in recent months, especially since getting his ass handed to by Roman Reigns and League of Nations breaking up. But it's Apollo Crews is definitely racking up all the victories. Nevertheless, I mean, Apollo Crews versus Sheamus was kind of just kind of a solid TV style match. Nothing too spectacular, but had its moments. But Apollo Crews went over Sheamus. Then we have is perhaps the match of the night, although there are probably other matches that came after it that probably deserve just as much credit. So you have a dream match that actually becomes a reality. So the face of WWE, John Cena, taking on, I guess you could say, the face of TNA, AJ Styles. So yeah, this is actually a really fun match. This is something I actually wanted to see for a very long time. And to actually see this match happen in reality, it was like so, like, man, this is too good to be true. And even the atmosphere, especially the Las Vegas crowd, were really pumped for this match. And um, basically John Cena got, typical Cena matches, he's always had some mixed crowd reactions, but even though people were kind of more rallying behind AJ Styles for the most part. Um, yeah, some really cool stuff. John Cena tried to go for a lot of attempts at an attitude adjustment, but somehow, some way, AJ Styles just always finds a way to to counter his finishing move. Um, AJ Styles pretty much got a lot of offense going into this match. There's actually a cool spot where I think, like when Cena was going for attitude adjustment, like, well, actually, I can't remember exactly what spot, but AJ Styles countered one of Cena's moves and he reversed it over to a calf crusher, which was actually really cool. I think it might have been some sort of roll up, but I apologize, my mind's a little fuzzy. So the match pacing was actually going really well. It almost kind of felt like, at going in this match that AJ Styles didn't really need to turn heel because he wasn't doing anything heelish for the most part up until, the ending of the match where uh, there was like a ref bump where John Cena shoved AJ Styles to the referee and the referee got knocked out. John Cena finally nails the attitude adjustment, gets the pin. It looks like Cena has the match won. And then, the Bullet Club came out there, which was expected, and nailed their Magic Killer, which is kind of like their double team finishing move. And eventually, AJ Styles, ended up getting the victory over John Cena. So this was kind of what you expect for a lot of John Cena matches. Like, he can't really lose clean for the most part unless it always has to involve some sort of shenanigans. Like there's like a ref bump and Cena's, like Cena believes that he should have had the match won, but the referee's knocked out, and then like someone comes out there and attacks Cena, and then the opponent that John Cena's facing ends up taking advantage and getting the victory instead. So, just judging by the ending of the match alone, they're likely going to do like some sort of grudge match for Battleground, which wouldn't surprise me. But, um, I thought the match was going really good, and AJ Styles got a victory over Cena. I guess what I'm really afraid of is kind of like what a lot of John Cena feuds have been over the years, especially when it comes to a lot of up and coming wrestlers that Cena has been feuding. It's like he's always got the upper hand over them somehow, some way. I mean, if you watch like last year, where like Cena was feuding with Kevin Owens, it's like the first match that they had, Kevin Owens went over John Cena, and then the next time around, John Cena ends up completely negating that big victory that Kevin Owens had by, even getting his win back in the, in the 50-50 style booking that, even a lot of wrestling fans have been kind of criticized when it comes to these types of feuds where they just kind of continue on and on throughout the next course of months of pay-per-views. And I'm kind of afraid, that might happen to, AJ Styles, because when you feud with John Cena, it's always like it's only a matter of time before Cena ends up getting his revenge and trying to up one over you the second time around. And um, I mean, it's just been kind of very run of the mill for many years. I mean, then again, it's not really much of a surprise, but um, I'm not really holding my breath that maybe John Cena is going to end up getting a victory back, um, but I really hope that AJ Styles looks consistently good. Especially with the next several matches when he has his rematch against Cena. So yeah, I definitely really enjoyed this match. Then we have is the Money in the Bank ladder match, which consists of Chris Jericho, Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, and Alberto Del Rio. And this match I would say was just as good as Cena and AJ, or maybe even better, perhaps. But um, yeah, so basically they kind of went back to the Money in the Bank consisting of 6 wrestlers. Especially over the years, like when they had Money in the Bank, they would always have like 8 people in the ring. But this time, or a few occasions, I think like I want to say Money in the Bank 2012, where they only had like 4 competitors. But here they kind of went back to the traditional 6-man Money in the Bank ladder match that they had since like the first one being WrestleMania 21. Yeah, so it kind of reminds me of the earlier Money in the Bank ladder matches. Um, yeah, so there was actually some pretty cool spots that they did. Just high spots from Sami Zayn, who did a somersault plancha. Um, you also have like Cesaro doing like his European uppercuts on three wrestlers who are like lying in the turnbuckle. Um, and even Kevin Owens also did like a cannonball on 3 wrestlers as well. Um, and Sami Zayn did the exploder suplex on Kevin Owens to Chris Jericho. Um, Man, there was actually a lot of pretty cool stuff that they did. They even used one of the ladders as kind of like a scaffold, sort of like Alberto Del Rio was like setting it up to kind of connect with the ladder that's stacked like in the center of the ring, where you have to like climb up and retrieve the briefcase. And even like Alberto Del Rio did like that top rope stomp that he does on that ladder. I can't remember who exactly he did it to, because there's just so many competitors, so it's really hard to kind of backtrack exactly like who was the one that took the spot. But yeah, the match was actually going really well. And at first I was kind of like thinking that maybe Chris Jericho was gonna find a way to retrieve the briefcase, because it's almost like the announcers always put it over. It's like Chris Jericho's been in the first Money in the Bank. He was the founding father. He's never won a ladder match, so it kind of got me thinking that maybe Chris Jericho could finally maybe win the Money in the Bank ladder match. So they kind of uh, teased it that he could potentially win it. But then again, it was actually pretty unpredictable for this Money in the Bank this year, as far as the ladder match itself is concerned. So anybody could have won this match, and Dean Ambrose has been kind of building some momentum back. Going over Chris Jericho in a series of matches, and even teasing a segment where he and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns had their little segment on Raw. So that was actually a really fun match. And Dean Ambrose, eventually retrieves the briefcase to become the 2016 Money in the Bank winner. So yeah, I thought it was actually really cool. See Dean Ambrose, get that moment. And this would be a sign of things to come for what will happen later that night. So a little bit of a spoiler alert, but yeah, this ladder match I thought was actually really cool. Then we have this kind of like sort of an intermission match. I was surprised this match didn't happen like earlier in the night, but this happened like in between the ladder match and the main event, and this involves the U.S. title bout between the champion Rusev defending the belt against Titus O'Neil. I can't really remember if there was any sort of build up. I mean, the only thing I remember was Rusev attacking Titus O'Neil during his entrance on Raw. Basically, Rusev just attacking Titus O'Neil and setting up a match at Money in the Bank. So Rusev pretty much dominated this match for the most part, even though Titus O'Neil had a little bit of offense here and there. Even Titus's kids were in the crowd that night, and because this was actually Father's Day, so they kind of, it kind of makes it seem like Titus O'Neil give that opportunity to win a championship belt, especially a singles belt. Um, yeah, so Rusev pretty much dominated this match. He ended up making Titus submit to the Accolade, so Rusev ended up retaining the U.S. title. So, yeah, this match was just kind of whatever, really. I mean, it's nothing like too. It was kind of more like an intermission, something to kind of quiet down the audience. And, basically Rusev ended up confronting one of Titus's kids and, um, just wishing them, yeah, happy Father's Day, yeah. So, yeah, so just Rusev just talking trash to his kids and basically walking out. So, yeah, that was basically the match there. Nothing really much happened for the most part. Then we get to the main event, which involves the World Heavyweight Championship with Roman Reigns defending against Seth Rollins. So we all know the build-up. It's like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, both were part of the Shield. They were former tag team champions. Um, they were supposed to have a match at Survivor Series until Seth Rollins had to get taken out due to a injury. But um, yeah, so Seth Rollins had to vacate the belt, and Roman Reigns ended up, winning the World Heavyweight title on multiple occasions. And basically Seth Rollins saying that, hey, I don't want, I was world champion, I never lost the belt, and now I want my revenge. So Roman Reigns, you and I, Money in the Bank, World Heavyweight Championship bout. I'm taking back the title that I never lost. And we know what happened at Extreme Rules, where Seth Rollins came out there, pedigreed Roman Reigns after he beat AJ Styles. So that kind of set up their program. So, yeah, Money in the Bank. It was actually a really fun match that they had. Roman Reigns was pretty dominant for the most part, and fans were booing Roman Reigns, which was kind of expected. Seth Rollins kind of got some cheers, even despite the fact that he's still a heel. But Roman Reigns kind of came off to me as more of a heel in this match, since he just, I don't know, he was just being more dominant. Roman Reigns pretty much got the upper hand. Seth Rollins got some offense. That was actually a pretty cool thing where Seth Rollins did the superplex off the top rope, and even did a Falcon Arrow, which was actually pretty cool. Um, and even the Sunset Flip power bomb, where it looked like Seth Rollins was trying to go for something off the top rope. Roman Reigns, was trying to do something off the top rope actually. I think it was like a Samoan drop, and then like Seth Rollins reversed into what I believe it looked like a Sunset Flip power bomb, but then he did that turnbuckle power bomb that he normally does. And then like Seth Rollins tried to go for pedigrees, but like Roman Reigns is always countering it. Roman Reigns goes for Superman punch. Every time he does it, Seth kicks out. Um, it was actually a cool thing where like actually before that, there was like a little bit of a ref bump along the way, and Roman Reigns bounced off the ropes, hits the spear, tries to go for a cover, but the ref's too out cold, so Roman looks like he has the match won. And then Roman Reigns tried to go for another spear, and Seth Rollins countered it into a pedigree, but even Roman Reigns kicked out of it. So even despite that, Seth Rollins went for another pedigree and successfully connected. Referee regains his consciousness and gets the 3 count, surprisingly, for Seth Rollins to win the World Heavyweight title. Crowd cheers. It's like, yes, Roman's no longer the champion. And then, Dean Ambrose's music hits, and the moment that happened, you knew it was time that he was going to cash it in. And Seth Rollins, tried to prepare himself. He wasn't completely blown out of the match, but he was expecting Dean Ambrose to come out of the backstage, and just running down to the aisle and just try to cash in, but he doesn't show, or at least. But then Dean Ambrose attacks Seth Rollins behind with the briefcase, hits the Dirty Deeds 1, 2, 3 for Dean Ambrose to become the new World Heavyweight Champion. and Dean Ambrose celebrates, and that's pretty much how the whole pay per view ends. So yeah, so my overall thoughts on Money in the Bank, I thought that was actually a really cool pay per view. A lot of the key important matches to me delivered. John Cena AJ was really cool despite the finish. The Money in the Bank ladder match I thought was just as good. Um, the main event was actually another match I enjoyed as well. The tag team match was pretty good despite the fact the New Day won, but everything else was, it's just pretty solid. I mean, yeah, you had a couple matches that were just kind of blah, like Ziggler versus Baron Corbin and um, Rusev and Titus O'Neil, it wasn't like a bad match, but it was kind of like, was it really needed? And especially since it was put very high on the card, especially since with Rusev and Titus O'Neil, it seemed like a type of match that probably could have been like very early on the card or maybe on the kickoff show. But even despite that, Money in the Bank, I thought that was actually a really good pay per view, and yeah, so that's kind of what my thoughts are with this Money in the Bank. Tell me what you all thought in the comment section below. What were your favorite matches, least favorite matches? Just leave down your comments in the comment section below. And until next time, this is the Gold Standard Caesar 924 signing out.